So now we're going to do some questions that involve writing equations. Okay, we're going to do some questions that involve writing equations, and we're going to be using this three-step process that we've learned. Okay, so here's a question. Okay, the question says 33 grams of 33 grams of ammonium sulfate. Okay, 33 grams of ammonium sulfate. I want you guys to write these questions down in your notebook. Okay, is reacted with or reacted completely. Okay, reacted completely with sodium hydroxide. Okay, with sodium hydroxide. The products, okay, the products are sodium sulfate, ammonia, and water. Okay, the products are sodium sulfate, ammonia, and water. The question is find the mass of ammonia produced. Okay, find the mass of ammonia produced. Okay, so in order to solve this question, right, this is a mole calculation question. Before we solve the question, we have to first write an equation. Okay, so to write this equation, we need to know the formula of ammonium sulfate and sodium hydroxide, right? So I've given you the reactants. The reactants are ammonium sulfate and sodium hydroxide, and I've given you the products, which are sodium sulfate, ammonia, and water. Find the mass of ammonia produced. So that's the question, right? So first we need to write the equation. Okay, तो इक्वेशन में पहले हमें लिखना होगा अमोनियम सल्फेट का फॉर्मूला. So what is the formula for ammonium sulfate? So first, let's write down the formula of ammonium sulfate, right? What is the ammonium ion? So ammonium is NH4 plus, right? NH4 1 plus. And what about sulfate? Sulfate क्या होता है? SO4 2 minus. We have ammonium which is NH4 plus and sulfate which is SO4 2 minus. तो हमें कितने अमोनियम चाहिए होंगे चार्जेस बैलेंस होने के लिए? Ammonium sulfate तो neutral compound है, right? So this is 1 plus. This is 1 plus, this is 2 minus. Which means we need two of these. We need two of these with one of this, right? Two of these क्यों? Because plus 1 है तो times 2 तो plus 2 हो जाएगा charge and 2 minus तो charges balance हो गए, right? तो ammonium sulfate का formula क्या होगा? NH4. We need two of those and then SO4. NH4 2 and then SO4, right? इस पूरे चीज के हमें दो चाहिए. इस पूरे चीज के हमें दो चाहिए होंगे. सही है? All right. So that's ammonium sulfate. Then what about sodium hydroxide? सोडियम पे क्या चार्ज होता है? सोडियम का सबको पता होना चाहिए. सोडियम इज इन ग्रुप 1. तो उस पे क्या चार्ज होता है? ग्रुप 1 मेटल है, उसका क्या चार्ज होगा? एनीवन? It would be 1 plus, right? और हाइड्रोक्साइड क्या होता है? What is hydroxide? Does anyone remember hydroxide ion क्या होता है? It's OH minus. So sodium is 1 plus and OH is 1 minus. Sodium is 1 plus, OH is 1 minus. तो sodium hydroxide क्या होगा? What would sodium hydroxide be? Sodium hydroxide would be NaOH. Okay, good. Yeah. So sodium hydroxide mein sodium is Na1 plus and hydroxide is OH minus. So sodium hydroxide is NaOH, right? So these are your reactants. Your reactants are ammonium sulfate and sodium hydroxide. Ammonium sulfate and sodium hydroxide. Okay. And then what about your products? Your products are sodium sulfate, ammonia, and water. Okay. So sodium sulfate का क्या formula होगा? Again, sodium is 1 plus. Sodium is 1 plus and sulfate is SO4 2 minus. So how many sodiums do we need? The charges have to be balanced. ये 1 plus है, ये 2 minus है. So how many sodiums would we need to balance it? We would need 2 sodiums, right? So you can say Na2SO4. Okay. You don't need to put brackets here because it's just one element, right? Brackets लगाना जरूरी है when you have multiple elements. Like ammonium में आपके पास nitrogen, hydrogen है, तो आपकी पूरे चीज के दो है ना, तो पूरे चीज पे आपको brackets लगाना है. Sodium एक ही element है, तो उस पर bracket लगाने की जरूरत नहीं. सही है? We have sodium sulfate. You guys know what the formula for ammonia is? Ammonia is NH3. Ammonia is NH3, okay? Ammonium is an ion. Ammonium is a cation. This is ammonium. Ammonia is a neutral gas, okay? Ammonia is NH3. Ammonium जो होता है cation होता है. Ammonia जो है वो gas होती है, सही है? NH3. And then lastly we have water, which is H2O. Okay. So ये आपने now when it comes to balancing, right, ये numbers आप लोग नहीं change कर सकते. Okay, ये जो numbers नीचे लिखे हुए ना, these numbers you cannot change. Okay, you cannot change these numbers. Okay, when you're balancing an equation, you can't change these numbers. Why? Because इनका formula जो है fixed होता है. इनका chemical formula आप change नहीं कर सकते. So you cannot change these numbers. You can only put numbers here. Okay, you can only put numbers here. Okay, the places I've highlighted, यहाँ पर आप numbers डाल सकते हो. Okay, so when you're balancing, you can only put the numbers here. You cannot change the numbers over here. Okay, you cannot change the numbers जो नीचे लिखे हुए. Okay, only next to the elements. Okay, now let's try balancing this. Now if you notice, right, लेफ्ट हैंड साइड पे भी हाइड्रोजन दो जगह है, ऑक्सीजन भी, राइट? ऑक्सीजन यहाँ पर भी है, यहाँ पर भी है, यहाँ पर भी है, यहाँ पर भी है, राइट? सेम थिंग विद हाइड्रोजन, यहाँ पर भी है, यहाँ पर भी है. So hydrogen and oxygen are usually difficult to balance because they're in multiple places, right? Hydrogen दो अलग जगहों पे है, oxygen is in two different places, hydrogen is in two different places, right? So that's harder to balance. Okay, so we're going to start by balancing the other elements. We're going to balance the elements जो सिर्फ एक जगह पे हैं. So for example, we can see nitrogen सिर्फ एक जगह पे है, right? So let's balance that first. Left hand side पे कितने nitrogens है यहाँ पर? In this equation, how many nitrogen atoms do we have on the left hand side? We have N and then we have a 2 here. So how many nitrogens do we have? How many nitrogens do we have on the right hand side? Left पे there's 2 nitrogens, right पे there's only 1 nitrogen. So where do I put a 2? I can put a 2 right here. So आपके nitrogens balance हो गए? Okay. As I said, हम लोग hydrogens and oxygens को end में करेंगे. Why? Because hydrogen and oxygens are in multiple places. यहाँ hydrogen दो जगह पे है, oxygen भी दो जगह पे है, so that's harder to balance. Okay? तो पहले हमने nitrogen balance कर लिया. यहाँ पर भी दो हो गए, यहाँ पर भी दो हो गए. अब कौन सा element है जो balance नहीं है? Can someone tell me? Hydrogen oxygen के अलावा. Hydrogen oxygen के अलावा वो end में करेंगे because that's harder to balance. और कौन सा element है जो balance नहीं है यहाँ पर? Sodium. Okay. Left hand side पे कितने sodiums हैं? एक. और right hand side पे दो. So where can I put a 2? I can put a 2 right here. Yeah? Sodiums balance हो गए अब. Okay, तो sodiums भी balance हो गए. Right? Okay. And now we can balance the oxygens. Left hand side पे कितने oxygens हैं? 4 plus 1 times 2. तो कितने oxygens है left hand side पे? 4 plus 2 कितने होता है? How many oxygens do we have? We have 6 oxygens, right? And right hand side पे कितने हैं? We have 4 here and we have 1 here. तो right hand side पे कितने हैं? 4 plus 1 we have 5. So फिर हम लोग को एक ऑक्सीजन बढ़ाना है. एक ऑक्सीजन बढ़ाने के लिए क्या बढ़ा देंगे हम? If we just want to increase the oxygens by 1, what do I increase? H2O बढ़ा देना एक, because H2O में एक ही ऑक्सीजन है. So what if I make this 2H2O? फिर हमने एक ऑक्सीजन बढ़ा दिया, right? तो अब ऑक्सीजन बैलेंस हो गए. We have 4 plus 2, that's 4 plus 2, 6. And right hand side पे we have 4 plus 2, right? So we have 6. And now look at the hydrogens. यहाँ पर hydrogens कितने हैं? 4 times 2, which is 8. 4 times 2. 4 times 2, which is 8, plus 2 times 1, which is 2, right? So that's 10 hydrogens. And then right hand side पे भी कितने हैं? 2 times 3, which is 6. 2 times 3 is 6. And then 2 times 2 is 4. So hydrogens भी आपके balanced. And this is the balanced equation. Does that make sense? We didn't need to balance the hydrogens. They were just balanced at the end. Once when we balance we balance the nitrogens, we balance the sodiums, we balance the oxygens, and then automatically the hydrogens were also balanced at the end. Yeah. Okay. Now let's get to the calculation part, right? In this question, they've said 33 grams of ammonium sulfate reacted completely with sodium hydroxide. So the quantity given to us is the mass of ammonium sulfate, which is 33 grams, right? इसका mass हमें दिया हुआ है. इसका mass क्या है? 33 grams. And we have to find the mass of ammonia, right? We have to find the mass of ammonia, right? That's what we don't know here, okay? We don't know the mass of ammonia. All right. So, what can we do to find the mass of ammonia? Okay. Now, what did I tell you guys? How do we find, what do we do for mole calculations? What's the first step? The first step is convert the known quantity to moles, okay? And find the limiting reactant, but in this, we haven't done limiting reactant yet, so you can ignore this part for now, okay? We'll come back to this part later. You want to convert the known quantity to moles. So what's our known quantity here? What do we have information about? हमें क्या चीज पता है यहाँ पर? What's our known quantity? We have the mass of ammonium sulfate, right? So the first step here, remember, is we have to convert known quantity. I'm going to write these steps down again, okay? And I want you guys to write them down again as well. So convert the known quantity to moles. So what was the first step? We have the number of moles is equal to the mass divided by the molar mass, right? I taught you guys this last time, okay? Now, what's the molar mass for ammonium sulfate? What's the molar mass for ammonium sulfate? Well, we'll have to go to the periodic table for this, right? So nitrogen is 14, right? Hydrogen is 1, sulfur is 32, oxygen is 16, okay? Nitrogen is 14, hydrogen ka mass is 1, sulfur is 32, and then oxygen is 16. So we go back. So iska molar mass kya aata hai? Capital M is the molar mass. Okay. We have how many nitrogens do we have in this compound? We have 2 nitrogens. So 2 times 14. How many hydrogens do we have? We have 4 times 2, that's 8. So we have 8 times 1, right? Hydrogen ka mass is just 1, hydrogen atom ka. We have 1 sulfur, and then we have 4 oxygens. Okay, we have 4 oxygen atoms. So plus 4 times 16. So what do you get for the molar mass? 132. Okay. So the molar mass is 132. All right. So the number of moles is equal to the mass given to us. What was the mass given to us? The known quantity, 33 grams, right? That's the mass given. That's the mass given divided by the molar mass, which is 132. So how many moles do we have? 0.25 moles. Okay. Now what's the second step? The second step is, I'll go back, the 3-step procedure. What's the second step? Use ratios to find the moles of the unknown quantity. Okay. Now this is an important idea, guys. A chemical equation tells you the molar ratio. What do I mean by molar ratio? Chemical equation बताता है यार, अगर आपके पास एक अमोनियम सल्फेट है तो अमोनिया कितने बनेंगे? If you have 1 ammonium sulfate, तो अमोनिया कितने बनेंगे? Can someone tell me from the chemical equation? एक अमोनियम सल्फेट से अमोनिया कितने बनेंगे? Look at the chemical equation, मुझे बताओ. एक अमोनियम सल्फेट से अमोनिया कितने बन रहे हैं? 2 बन रहे हैं ना? 1 ammonium sulfate is giving me 2 ammonias, right? Is that the same as saying 1 gram will give me 2 grams? Is that the same as saying 1 gram will give me 2 grams? Does the chemical equation represent a mass ratio, or does it just represent a mole ratio? What do you guys think? Is this correct? कि 1 gram से 2 gram मिलेंगे? Is that a correct statement? It's not a correct statement, right? Because ammonium sulfate और ammonia के mass में फर्क है, right? So it's not a mass ratio. It is a mole ratio. It means 1 mole will give me 2 moles. या अगर इसके 2 मोल होते तो अमोनिया के कितने बनते? 4 बनते, right? So basically from the chemical equation, we have the molar ratio. The chemical equation gives us the mole ratio, okay? I'll repeat this. The chemical equation gives us the mole ratio, not the mass ratio, okay? So over here, हमने पहले क्या करा? पहले known quantity के moles ढूंढ लिए हमने, फिर हमने बोला यार, we can say use ratios to find the moles of the unknown quantity. Okay, use ratios to find the moles of the unknown quantity, right? The unknown quantity here, the unknown quantity is the moles of ammonia, right? We want to find unknown, हमें ढूंढना क्या है? Mass of ammonia ढूंढना है. So we're going to use the ratios to find the moles of the unknown quantities. हम कह सकते हैं यार, from the chemical equation, we know that 1 mole of ammonia, 1 mole of ammonium sulfate, sorry, gives us 2 moles of ammonia. From the chemical equation, we know 1 mole of ammonium sulfate gives us 2 moles of ammonia. So in this question, we had 0.25 moles. We had 0.25 moles of ammonium sulfate. So how many moles of ammonia will we get? How many moles of ammonia will we get? अगर 1 से 2 बनते हैं तो 0.25 से कितने बनेंगे अमोनिया के? You can just cross multiply, right? You can just cross multiply these two, right? So you get what? Number of moles is equal to times 2, which is 0.5 moles of ammonia, right? So ammonia के moles आ गए, right? Again, just cross multiply. N times 1 is N. 0.25 times 2 is 0.5. Okay, so we have the moles of ammonia, right? Again, we're just using the ratios from the chemical equation. And then third step. The third step is to convert to desired units, okay? Convert to the desired. So desired units क्या है यहाँ पर? Again, the third step is basically एक बार आपने moles ढूंढ लिए, you can convert from moles to the desired unit, okay? You can convert from moles to the desired units. So in this case, let me write this down, the whole thing. You can convert from moles, okay, to the desired unit. So now we have the moles of ammonia. और हमें सवाल में क्या ढूंढना है अमोनिया का? हमें अमोनिया का mass ढूंढना है. We want to find the mass of ammonia. So we learned last time that the mass is equal to the number of moles times the molar mass, okay? The mass is the number of moles times the molar mass. If you think about ammonia, what's the molar mass? The molar mass is nitrogen is 14 and hydrogen हमारे पास 3 है. So 14 plus 3 times 1, so the molar mass is 17. So what's the mass of ammonia? The mass of ammonia is the moles. Moles कितने थे? 0.5 और molar mass क्या है? 17, right? 0.5 times 17. So the mass of ammonia is 0.5 times 17, which is 8.5 grams. Okay, again, the answer will be in grams, right? The answer will be in grams. Okay, so that's your answer. Let's do the next one. 13.25 grams of sodium carbonate, 13.25 grams of sodium carbonate is reacted completely, okay, is reacted completely with hydrochloric acid, okay, is reacted completely with hydrochloric acid. Sodium chloride, carbon dioxide, and water are produced. Okay, carbon dioxide and water are produced. Okay. Find the mass of carbon dioxide produced. Okay, find the mass of carbon dioxide produced. All right. Now again, we have to write down the equation first. Okay, we have to write down the equation first. So Let's start with sodium carbonate. What's the form? So again, आपके reactants क्या हैं? Sodium carbonate and hydrochloric acid. So sodium, again, sodium ion का क्या charge होता है? Sodium ion का charge क्या होता है? Sodium is in group 1. So sodium is 1 plus. Okay. Let's go back for a second. Sodium is 1 plus, right? It's in group 1. And carbonate क्या होता है? CO3 2 minus. Okay. So how many sodiums do we need for the chemical formula of sodium carbonate? How many sodiums would we need? ये 1 plus है, ये 2 minus है. Sodium is 1 plus, carbonate is 2 minus. So we need 2 sodium. So this would be Na2CO3. Okay, Na2CO3, right? Na2CO3. So we have Na2CO3. Okay, that's sodium carbonate. All right. So again, if you guys want, you can write that down. Na plus CO3 2 minus. Again, you guys should remember what the carbonate ion is. Okay, you've learned this now. So you should know this. So sodium, Na2CO3, that's sodium carbonate. Does anyone know what hydrochloric acid is? Hydrochloric acid, because I'm guessing everyone should know. Okay, everyone should know hydrochloric acid if you've been taking chemistry. Hydrochloric acid is HCl, right? HCl. Okay. The L is lowercase. Chlorine is Cl and hydrogen is H. So hydrochloric acid is HCl. Okay. Everyone should know what sodium chloride is as well. Sodium chloride kya hoga? NaCl, right? Sodium, again, sodium is in group 1 and chlorine is in group 7. Group 7 1 minus banate hai, group 1 1 plus banate hai. Group 1 1 plus, sodium group 1, chlorine group 7 makes 1 minus ion. So Na plus Cl minus. So NaCl, right? And then carbon dioxide kya hota hai? Everyone should know this as well. Carbon dioxide is CO2 and water is H2. Water is H2. लेफ्ट हैंड साइड पे कितने सोडियम्स हैं हमारे पास? 2 हैं. और राइट हैंड साइड पे कितने हैं? How many do we have on the right? On the left we have 2. And how many do we have on the right? On the right we just have 1, right? So where would I put a 2? Should I put a 2 on the right or the left? यहाँ पर you have 2 sodiums, so you would have 2 NaCl. Right? You have 2 NaCl. Okay. So now the sodiums are balanced. Now what else do we need to balance? Cl. यहाँ पर हमने 2 लगाया तो क्लोरीन कितने हो गए? 2 हो गए. यहाँ पर क्लोरीन 2 हो गए. राइट हैंड साइड पे 1 है. So we get 2 HCl. Now check the rest. Is everything else balanced? Hydrogens कितने हैं? 2 हैं. यहाँ पर भी 2 हैं. Oxygens कितने हैं? 3. और यहाँ पर कितने हैं? 2 plus 1 3. So everything else is balanced. That's it. That's the balanced equation. Okay. That's the balanced equation. Okay. Now we need to find the mass of carbon dioxide produced, right? So हमें mass दिया हुआ क्या है? We've been given the mass of sodium carbonate. The mass of sodium carbonate is given to us. The mass is 13.25 grams, right? That's the mass of sodium carbonate that's given to us. And we don't know the mass of carbon dioxide, okay? We don't know the mass of carbon dioxide, right? That's what we have to find, okay? So we need to find the mass of carbon dioxide, right? So to find the mass of carbon, so again, we're going to follow the 3-step process, right? The first step, we need to convert the known quantity to moles. We need to convert the known quantity to moles. आपकी known quantity क्या है? Sodium carbonate का mass दिया हुआ है. The number of moles क्या होता है? It is the mass divided by the molar mass. What is the molar mass of sodium carbonate? For sodium carbonate, the molar mass is equal to, sodium has a mass of 23. So we have 2 sodium, so that's 2 times 23. Carbon is 12, and we have 3 oxygen, so 3 times 16. The molar mass is 106. Okay. So the number of moles for sodium carbonate is 13.25, right? That's the mass given to us in the question. In the question, they've said the mass is 13.25. So you take the mass and divide by the molar mass. The molar mass is 106. The molar mass is 106. How many moles do you get for sodium carbonate? 0.125. Okay. 0.125 moles of sodium carbonate. Okay. So now we have the moles of sodium carbonate. Okay. What is the second step, guys? Second step में क्या करेंगे? We use ratios to find the moles of carbon dioxide. Use ratios to find the moles of carbon dioxide. According to the equation, एक सोडियम कार्बोनेट से CO2 कितने बनते हैं? एक सोडियम कार्बोनेट से CO2 कितने बनते हैं? 1, right? So the ratio is 1 is to 1. The ratio is 1 is to 1. Okay, this is the ratio, 1 is to 1, right? So we can say 1 sodium carbonate gives you 1 CO2. So if you have 0.125 moles of sodium carbonate, you have 0.125 moles of sodium carbonate. How many moles do you have of carbon dioxide? Just cross multiply again, right? Just cross multiply. So the number of moles of carbon, it's a 1-to-1 ratio, right? जितने भी moles sodium carbonate के उतने ही moles आपके carbon dioxide के होंगे. So the number of moles of carbon dioxide is equal to 0.125. Yes, that is the answer. And then the third step, we have to convert. So again, हमने क्या करा? First step, we found the moles of the known quantity. Known quantity क्या थी? Sodium carbonate. Second step, we use ratios to find the moles of the unknown quantity, whatever you want to find. You want to find carbon dioxide, उसके moles ढूंढो second step में. Second step में unknown quantity CO2 के हमें moles ढूंढने हैं, तो moles ढूंढ लिए. Third step, convert to desired units. We want to find the mass. हमने moles ढूंढ लिए. We know that the mass of carbon dioxide is equal to the moles times the molar mass, right? We can say that the mass of carbon dioxide is equal to the number of moles times the molar mass. Okay? For carbon dioxide, the molar mass is carbon का 12 होता है and oxygen का 16 होता है. So that is 44. So then we can say mass of carbon dioxide is number of moles, that's 0.125 times the molar mass, which is 44. So times 44, and we get the answer as 5.5 grams of carbon dioxide being produced. So that's the answer. That is the answer. So, next question. We've only done 2 questions, so I think 3 questions to banta hai nahi. 3 is a magic number. Next question. Okay. So calcium hydroxide. Okay, calcium hydroxide is reacted completely. Is reacted completely with ammonium chloride. Okay, calcium hydroxide is reacted completely with ammonium chloride. Okay. Calcium chloride. Okay, calcium chloride, ammonia, and water are produced. Okay. Okay. Calcium chloride, ammonia, and water are produced. Right. 13.5 grams. Okay. 13.5 grams of water are produced. Okay. 13.5 grams of water are produced. Okay. Find the mass. Okay. Find the mass of calcium hydroxide that reacted. To find the mass of calcium hydroxide that reacted. All right. So first we need to write down the equation. So they're saying calcium hydroxide is reacted with ammonium chloride. Now, so calcium is in group 2. Okay. Calcium is in group 2, right? So what's the charge on the ion? Anyone want to tell me? What's the charge on the ion for calcium? Calcium would be 2 plus. and hydroxide is 1 minus. So how many hydroxides do I need for the charges to be balanced? I need 2 of these hydroxides, right? ये 2 plus है, तो I need 2 hydroxides because hydroxide is 1 minus, right? Okay. So calcium hydroxide is CaOH2. Okay. Then ammonium. Ammonium is NH4 plus. And chlorine is in group 7. Group 7 कौन सा ion बनाता है? It gains 1 electron, makes 1 minus ion. So NH4 plus, Cl minus. So इनके charges are already balanced, right? Plus 1 minus 1, 1 plus 1 minus, right? So this is NH4, ammonium is 1 plus NH4 and then Cl. Okay. Then we get calcium chloride. Calcium chloride क्या होगा? Calcium is 2 plus and chloride is 1 minus. Calcium is 2 plus, chloride is 1 minus. So we need 2 of these, right? We need 2 of these. Why? Because this is 2 plus and this is 1 minus, right? So to balance the charges, we would need 2 of these. So we would say CaCl2. Okay. And then we have ammonia and water, right? So ammonia is NH3. Okay. Remember, ammonium is NH4 plus, ammonia is NH3. Okay. So ammonia is NH3 and then water is H2O. Okay. Now again, as I said, don't balance the oxygens and hydrogens till the end because they're coming in 2 different places. Yeah, hydrogen दो अलग जगहों पे, right? So it's harder to balance that. Okay. So what can you balance first? What element is obviously not balanced here? Right and left दोनों तरफ देखो कौन सा element आपको लग रहा है जो balance कर सकते हैं आसानी से पहले. यहाँ पर chlorines दो हैं. Right? Look at the chlorines. Calcium already balanced है. Right? Nitrogen अभी फिलहाल balanced है. Right? So for now the nitrogens are balanced, for now the calciums are balanced, right? It's just the oxygen, hydrogen and chlorine, right? So you can start with the chlorines. We have 2 chlorines here, right? That's the easiest one to balance. So if we have 2 chlorines here, we only have 1 here. Again, you can't change these numbers, okay? You can't change any of these numbers. You can only put a 2 on the left here, right? So yeah, आपके हो गए 2 chlorines यहाँ पर and now you have 2 chlorines over here, okay? So now the chlorines are balanced. But now अब कौन सा element balanced नहीं है? What element is not balanced now? Nitrogen, right? Because यहाँ पर you have 2 nitrogens now and यहाँ पर you just have 1 nitrogen. So how do I balance the nitrogens? I put a 2 on the right hand side. Okay, so now the nitrogens are balanced, right? And now let's balance the oxygens. Here you have 2 oxygens. How many oxygens do you have on the right? How many oxygens do you have on the right? You just have 1, right? You just have 1, so I can say 2H2O. So now notice calciums are balanced. We have 1 on each side. The chlorines are balanced. We have 2 on each side. The nitrogens are balanced. The oxygens are balanced, right? Because we have 2 on each side. And then the hydrogens are also balanced. We have 2 times 3, 2 times 3, and then 2 times 2. That's 10, right? 6 plus 4. And on the right hand side, we have 2 plus 2 times 4, right? 2 times 4 because this. So we have 10 hydrogens on the left and 10 hydrogens on the right. Okay. So now everything is balanced. Okay. Now in this case, they have told us the mass of water that was produced. That's the information given to us. The mass of water was produced is 13.5 grams. They said 13.5 grams of water are produced. We need to find the mass of calcium hydroxide. So that is your unknown quantity. The mass of calcium hydroxide is your unknown quantity, right? That's what you have to find, and you know the mass of H2O, right? Okay. Water is our known quantity, right? Again, first step, convert the known quantity to moles. So we can say H2O, right? कि हम लोग बात करते हैं number of moles is equal to the mass divided by the molar mass, right? Mass इसका हमें दिया हुआ है 13.5 और H2O का molar mass क्या होता है? H2O का molar mass is, we have 2 hydrogens, that's 2 times 1, and then we have 1 oxygen. So molar mass is 18 grams. So then we can say our MR is 18, right? MR is 18, okay? You can say MR as well instead of M. So MR is 18, okay? So then we can say 13.5 divided by 18, okay? Again, when you're doing the moles of water, don't worry about this 2. ओके, इग्नोर द 2 फॉर नाउ, इसको इग्नोर करो फॉर नाउ। ओके, ये 2 हम लोग रेशो में इस्तेमाल करेंगे बाद में। ओके, ये 2 को जो है हम लोग रेशो में बाद में इस्तेमाल करेंगे, अभी इसका कुछ you don't need to consider this now. Okay, for now you just need to look at the mass and calculate the moles directly. Ignore the 2. Okay, we don't care about the 2 when we're talking about the mass. We're going to use this when we're looking at the ratio in the equation. Okay, we're going to look at this later. Okay, we just use the mass and divide by the mr to find the moles. The number of moles of H2O is 0.75 moles. Step, we need to use, again, first step, find the moles of the known quantity. Okay, second step, use ratios to find the moles of the unknown quantity. The unknown quantity is calcium hydroxide. That's what we have to find here. So we're going to use ratios to find that. So we can say from our equation, we know that calcium hydroxide, that's CaOH2 and H2O, का ratio क्या है? 1:2, right? We can see that in the equation. 1 mole of calcium hydroxide produces 2 moles of H2O. And we have the moles of H2O, 0.75. So we can find the number of moles of calcium hydroxide. Again, just cross multiply. So if we cross multiply, we get 2 times N is equal to 0.75. So N is equal to 0.375 moles. Okay, N is equal to 0.375 moles. Okay, again, just cross multiply. 2 times N is equal to 0.75, and then N is just divide by 2, right? Divide by 2 over here. Take that to the other side, and then you get 0.375, right? Just divide 2 on both sides. And then lastly, we want to convert from moles to mass, right? Because हमारे सवाल क्या पूछा? Mass पूछा, हमने moles ढूंढ लिए. So we can say that the mass is equal to the number of moles times the molar mass. For calcium hydroxide, the molar mass is, calcium is 40, oxygen हमारे पास 2 हैं, right? That's 2 times 16, and then 2 hydrogens हैं, right? So 2 times 1, which is 74. So we can say that the mass is equal to the number of moles, which is 0.375 times the molar mass, which is 74, and that gives us a mass of 27.75 grams. Okay, so that is your answer. Yeah, 27.75 grams of calcium hydroxide. Okay, that initially reacted. So that is your answer. There we go.